All right, everybody, what's happening, man? Y'all, welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. Of course, I'm your tour guide, C. Wells, coming at you. And we're going to do a little bit of SWAC news and notes today. We're going to talk a little football. We're going to talk some softball and some baseball. But before we do that, as usual, you can check out the socials on the screen. Facebook is SWAC Talk, Instagram is SWAC Talk, Twitter SWAC Talk 76, and the email address is swactalk76 at gmail.com. So make sure you check those out, get those a like, a follow, or whatever the case may be. Also, if you haven't done so already, won't you please subscribe to the channel? We very much appreciate it. Like those videos. Feel free to comment on anything that comes up in any of the videos. Share the videos and just enjoy your time here, man. If you already subscribed, then thank you very much. Appreciate that to the utmost. Definitely appreciate your love and support. SWAC Smoke Teas, man. I think they are here. So you should, if you got one already, you should be getting yours soon. So stay tuned for that. But if you haven't got one, man, here's the info on the t-shirts, man. You can hit up my homie DJ, my co-host on SWAC Smoke. You can hit him up on his Instagram. His info is on the screen right now. You can hit him up for information on the shirts. They come in two colors, black and white. Here's the white shirt with with red writing on it, SWAC Smoke logo, and the black shirt is same, black with red. They're one for 25, two for 40. So make sure, if you want to cop some t-shirts, man, hit up DJ. His IG handle is on the screen, so make sure you hit him up and let him know you want to cop a couple t-shirts and help support the show. Other than that, as usual, we got our next edition of SWAC Talk coming up on Wednesday. Thursday, the SWAC Smoke live as usual, and then next Sunday, another edition of SWAC Talk coming at you. So pretty regular full schedule. May drop a couple videos here and now, depending on if a couple things come through this week. So make sure to stay tuned, man. Hit that notification bell so when videos drop out of my normal schedule, you will know when they drop. So let's go ahead and jump into this, man. We're gonna go ahead and get started, and we're gonna start off with football because that's the sport that everybody loves. Football is king in the South, so we're gonna start off with that, and we're gonna talk some QB battles now. I may give my guess on who I think will win these battles. Some of them is too close to tell, or there's not enough information on guys because some guys are very new to programs. Some guys are just not cut and dry in stone starters. And then there's a couple where the starter returns, but there are some other guys who may be pushing. So we're gonna just go through them. And if your name is not on this list, then consider yourself lucky. You have an established quarterback. And this list is fairly long. Let's see. So basically, as far as this list goes, now every one of these may not be an official QB battle, but these are some with question marks as far as guys who have a starter who may be the starter but may get pushed and lose his job, and then there's some where the job is completely wide open. But according to my list that I threw together, there are 10 out of the 12 teams have quarterback battles going on. Now, if you're Texas Southern or Jackson State, man, you can sit this segment out. Now you can listen and see what you got to see on the opposing side, but consider yourself lucky if you have a Shedeur Sanders or Andrew Body on your team right now because you have a quarterback. You're working on depth behind him. So this list is 10 teams. Now, like I said, the battles come in different forms, and I'll explain them as I go, but this is a pretty big list. So we'll start off with Alabama A&M. Obviously, they lost Mr. Everything, Kill Glass, 4-year starter, multiple SWAC Player of the Year. Now he's in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers mini camp right now, battling for a spot. He left some big shoes to fill. Like I said, 4-year starter, didn't miss very much time with injury. Really consistent guy as far as being on the field and being available. Last season he was 259 of 414, 3,568 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 7 INTs. Those are big shoes to fill, and they have about 4 or 5 guys that are up for the position, including another guy they just brought in the other day. But the names that I'm gonna point out, who I think would probably be the most important, are the guys who were battling it out in the spring. And that's Quincy Casey, Xavier Langford, and Jaron Williams, who's a transfer from Miami. Obviously, Quincy Casey came from Jackson State, had limited action at Alabama A&M last season. I think he only threw about 3 passes, but he had some starting experience at JSU. Langford had a really good spring game. He had some limited action at Alabama A&M, and Jaron Williams was a starter at Miami his freshman season. So they all, bring different levels of experience, different levels of starting experience. And, this is a mix, a different group of guys who kind of can do similar things, but they also have their own strengths and weaknesses. Right now, this to me, this position is wide open. I don't think anybody, as far as what I heard, what I know at this point, I don't think anybody really separated themselves in the spring. So it's going to be a really tight battle going into the fall camp. And ultimately, who comes out on top is going to be a guy who outlasts the competition. It's really hard to really pick a guy to put my money on as far as who I think could come out on top. Like I said, I think Langford had a really good spring game, but there's only so much you can take on that, especially when you're playing with split squads. So you don't really, you're not playing against the number 1 defense. You're not playing with all your weapons either. So it's a mixed bag. But this is going to be a battle that I'm very interested in. And like I said, they added another guy this week. So this quarterback room is really deep right now, and this is going to be a battle I think that probably will last throughout the spring. And I would not be surprised if it lasted until maybe the first couple of weeks of the season if somebody doesn't separate themselves immediately in camp. That can still always happen. Somebody can come in really hot and take the reins right away, or it could be a back and forth battle, and the coaches don't decide right away. So I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on this job. I'm not going to pick anybody because I don't really have any true idea of who I think could be the starter. I feel like any one of these guys could start. I'm kind of, if I had to, I kind of would lean towards Jaron Williams. He has the most experience out of the 3 coming from Miami. So I'm not gonna 100% put my money behind him, but I think that's probably the guy I would pick if I had to pick one. Moving on to Bama State, I think their job is pretty much settled. Now, obviously, there's work to be done on the field, but they got a huge transfer in Demetrius Davis from Auburn. He comes in, really highly touted. He's a guy who can do it all, and a lot of people feel like he will be the starting quarterback. Now, obviously, it's hard to just give a guy a job when he comes in, and especially a guy who hasn't played much in college. So that's kind of iffy. But obviously, when you look at the talent level between him and the guys who are still there, he probably is the most talented guy. Ryan Nettles transferred out. He went to Tuskegee. So that was your previous starter for most of the season and all of the spring season. Nettles leaves with numbers 122 or 205, 1,194 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He battled inconsistency all season and injury as well. So Miles Crawley came in and took over for him. He was 35 or 85, 459 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And then Joe Owens played late in the season. He was 45 or 65, 441 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So they bring back, some guys who have some experience playing. Still a young quarterback room. Those guys, Crawley and Owens, they're relatively young. Davis doesn't have a lot of experience, but he has the ability, and I think a lot of people feel like he's gonna be the guy to get the job, especially with Nettles hitting the portal. That probably opens up the door for him to get the job. But I expect to see a battle in camp. That's why it's on the list. I think he probably will ultimately come out on top, but I do expect to see these guys go in on relatively even footing. Moving on to Alcorn, they lose Felix Harper, the trigger man. He was 191 of 310, 2,489 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's right now in the Cleveland Browns mini camp, getting his opportunity. And they don't return anybody with any experience as far as starting at Alcorn or playing at Alcorn, but Allen, the quarterback, transferred from Louisiana Tech. He did start some at Louisiana Tech. I think he may be the guy who has the leg up. They returned 2 other quarterbacks as far as looking at the roster, Davis and Williams. So they don't really have anybody really entrenched in stone. But I think I've heard a lot of people be real high on Allen right now. So I would probably say he would be the guy to keep an eye out on heading into camp and probably coming out of camp, getting ready for their first game of the season. Bethune-Cookman is a mixed bag to me. It's like the 4th time I use that word. Let me find something, another phrase. But as far as Bethune-Cookman goes, I do have one question I was not able to find my answer. So this kind of doesn't necessarily change how I feel about this battle, but it can kind of throw another cog in the machine. But they lose Shannon Patrick. He was 118 or 219, 1,360 yards, 9 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. And I believe they lose Devin Black. I've been looking and I can't find any information if he's gone or if he's coming back. But I'm going to operate under the assumption that he's gone because he was a senior. But if you know if he's back, man, please let me know in the comments. That may change my thought process a little, but not a lot. But as far as my assumption, he was 62 of 121, 970 yards, 9 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He came in late in the season and took over for Patrick, who was really inconsistent and just turnover prone, which was something that he carried with him from Pine Bluff. But he just couldn't really get over the hump, and Bethune-Cookman really struggled offensively for large portions of the season. They picked up a huge transfer from Florida, Jackson State, Mississippi Delta Community College, Jalen Jones. He's a former 4-star quarterback. Obviously, he started at Jackson State most of the 2019 season. He started most of the spring of 2021, and then he transferred to Mississippi Delta, where he played well there. He's a dual threat guy. You know, he has a really big arm. He's not the most accurate guy, but he's big and he can run the ball. And I think he fits with what Bethune-Cookman probably going to want to do. But they do have a new offensive coordinator, Mike Cornelis. So, you know, that we'll see how he wants to run his offense. But he's a guy who can do, you know, he can tuck it and run. He can throw. You know, like I said, I don't know how much his accuracy has improved, but that was always the issue with him with accuracy and making the proper reads. But he's a guy who has the physical talents and he has experience. So I look for him to win this job. If Black is returning, then it may be a tighter battle, but I still think Jones is the guy that's going to win this battle. They do return a few other quarterbacks, Franklin, Riley, Robbins, and Pena. Those are some of the names that I found, but none of those guys have played at all in this past season. Black and Patrick took all the snaps at quarterback for the most part for Bethune-Cookman, so his job is wide open. I expect Jalen Jones to come in and earn this job coming out of the spring and, you know, going into the fall. So I think he's going to be the guy that I look for Bethune-Cookman to have as their starting quarterback at the beginning of the season. Now, interesting one that I've seen a lot of people say, and I've seen it from, you know, their beat writers and everything, is FAMU. A lot of people, you know, feel like that this job is open. You know, I mean, Rashawn McKay had a really solid season last year. He's looked at as a game manager. He's not really a guy who's going to win games for you, but he's not really going to lose games for you. He had some really solid numbers this past season, 211 of 364, 2,457 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Really solid numbers. No, you know, not bad turnovers. You know, just, you know, a guy who was going to be steady. A lot of people weren't really sold on him, though, as far as being the guy that can take you over the hump. The coaches, I think they feel like this position is wide open. They have Jeremy Musa, who came in from Vanderbilt as a transfer, and he is pushing. Junior Maritovic is a young kid. He was a freshman last year. He got some snaps. I think he even started a game. He was 20 or 35, 173 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So this position battle, I think, is open because I think Musa is going to push McKay, and we'll see who comes out on top. I mean, obviously, when you have a guy who started the bulk of your season and threw for 22 touchdowns, it's kind of odd to see his name on this list. But a lot of people do feel like this is a quarterback battle. So I'll see how this one turns out, because this one could definitely impact a championship contending team. Having a position battle like this, does not necessarily mean his job is, on the line, but you bring in a guy who's very talented, who's definitely going to push him. And I think that's why this is a quarterback battle in that sense. To me, not so much that he can't do the job, but it's because you're bringing in a guy who is capable and is going to really push and make for an interesting fall camp. Moving on to Grambling, obviously they have a new head coach in Hugh Jackson, so there's a lot of flux. They've lost 2 quarterbacks in the last couple of months in the portal. Elijah Walker, who started the bulk of the 2021 season, and he started the fall, most of the fall. He started the last 2 games of the spring 2021 season. He was 38 of 80, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His skill was mainly as a runner. Groundling's offense really struggled last year. They did play Noah Biden, who was a 3-star quarterback from New York as a freshman. He got a couple starts last year. He was 44 of 102, 476 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Had his young quarterback ups and downs, but with the new system, the new coaching staff, he decided to go and look for another opportunity. As well as Walker, they both entered the portal. So Grambling did pick up 2 transfers at quarterback. They picked up Holly Wayne, who came from UCLA, and Gilmore, who was a Kentucky commit, who was from Kentucky, but then he went to North Texas, and now he's at Grambling. So those are two FBS transfers that they have coming in. They return a guy like John Paul Pierce, who played a bit last season, 26 of 61, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and then Alden Clark, 23 of 52, 195, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So I expect this to be a battle. I think having a guy who's coming in late, as far as after the spring, probably throws a little bit of a wrench in who may have been coming out of the spring on top. So this should be a very interesting battle. I want to keep my eyes on this one because some people feel like Grambling is a team that's gonna, take that step into the top of the West, into the top of the West Division. So having a stable quarterback is gonna be big. Like I said, if you look at this list, pretty much every team in the West definitely is gonna have a new quarterback. At least as far as I feel. So that makes the West even more unpredictable. Moving on to Mississippi Valley, they're another team who does return their starter, Jelani Eason. He comes back. He was 126 of 210, 1,533 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. They picked up one of the top junior college quarterbacks from EMCC. I forgot his first name. Jones, coming in from EMCC. He's a guy who a lot of people feel like he may start. He's a dual threat type of guy. He's going to be a guy who can challenge for the position. TJ Goodwin also returns. He was a UTEP transfer. Didn't play much last year, but he returns. Quincy Ivory and Connor Reagan. So they have a loaded quarterback room, and they return their starter. I think Eason probably will come out on top. I mean, he does have the experience, but there's some very capable guys who can push him. If they can make the offense more explosive, then I expect them to play over him. But right now, I do lean toward your returning guy, but his job is up for grabs. So that's why they made this list. Prairie View, they lose Jawan Pass, who was, who came in after the after spring of last season and got the starting job and led Prairie View to SWAC championship berth. They don't return a lot of experience at quarterback. They return Trezon Connolly, who played, who basically was the starter in the spring, and he got some time in the fall. Chris Scott, who came from Alabama State, he didn't play much at Prairie View last season. And those are probably the two guys who I look at as being the two guys who battled it out. Now they may pick up a portal guy in between now and then. You know, out of all the quarterback battles, this is probably the one that I have no idea of how it's going to go, because they don't really have a lot of experienced guys there, and they don't really have a guy who's coming in head and shoulders above everybody else. So this will be a very interesting position battle. They do return some really good running backs and some good receivers on offense and a pretty solid offensive line. So they don't have, they don't have to go out and win the games themselves. Defense should be still pretty solid. So this is a team who will be able to work a guy in. So we want to really see what they can do in the fall camp. One of the other battles I think that will impact the West Division race is Southern. They do return Bubba McDaniel, who came in as the starter after like the second or third game of the season. He was 118 of 191, 1,317 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Some people, when you listen to people talk about Bubba McDaniel, his numbers sound a lot better than what they say about him. He's probably a guy who I would liken to McKay from FAMU as a guy who was not really going to win games for you. He may not necessarily lose games for you, but he's not really going to make those big plays, those big explosive plays that you want from your quarterback. Losing a guy like Ladarius Skelton, who battled injury most of last season, but in previous years he was a explosive guy, running and passing, having a guy who like McDaniel come in who's similar in ability as far as being able to run the ball, but not on the level of Skelton, but he's a guy who can run. He doesn't run as much, but he can run. He can throw pretty well, but he's not really the guy that's gonna go out and take over games. So with Coach Dooley coming in, I think he wants a guy, and he stated he wants a guy who he can trust to go out and win games for him, not just manage games. And to me, bringing in a guy like Bashawn McKay at quarterback, who came from Hines Community College, he's a dual threat guy, I think. And I think that being Dooley's guy, I think he's going to be the guy who comes out. I know he came out on top after the spring, but not, they didn't necessarily name a starter. So there's still going to be a battle into the fall. Harold Blood is a young quarterback who a lot of people have been saying for the last couple of years is probably one of the best quarterbacks on the roster, but he's third right now. I don't expect to see him really, take over this position. If he do, then that to me that either means the two other guys aren't really separating themselves at all, or he's just having a hell of a camp, which could happen, but I don't expect to see that happen. The last job that we have on the list is UAPB, and obviously Skylar Perry is the guy, but he had a very up and down season in the fall, coming off of a strong spring season. He had a very up and down, inconsistent fall season. Got benched a couple of times. Didn't really protect the football. He was 153 of 304, 1,768 yards, 6 touchdowns and 9 interceptions on the season. And like I said, he got benched a couple of times, just did not put it together well throughout the season. So, they feel like, he may get pushed. Macon, Higgins, and Vaughn are guys who may push him, but I think Skylar Perry will come out on top in this spot, being, a guy who does have starting experience. So, he's basically been starting off and on since the 2018 season. So he's been around, and he knows Pine Bluff, he knows the system, and I think he will probably be the guy that they get to take them over the hump. So that's my outlook on quarterback battles right now. Like I said, there's a lot of time for this to change. We haven't even got into fall camp, so we'll see. Maybe some other teams bring in portal guys to fill in the void. Then some people may have some incoming freshmen who may step up once they get to camp in the fall. So these battles should be very interesting. I just wanted to kind of put out there right now what I think about those battles, and we'll keep our eyes on those. Next, we're gonna jump to softball. This weekend was the softball SWAC tournament taking place in Gulfport, Mississippi. And this was a very entertaining tournament, man. I hope that all the games were broadcast on the SWAC digital network. So I hope you guys were able to catch some of these games. We're gonna run through the entire tournament as far as the scores go. The first game of the tournament, Jackson State beat Grambling 10-3. That was a East 2 versus West 4. West 2 versus East 4 matchup. Jackson State picked up the victory there. Oh, excuse me. Started off wrong. Let's see. Why is this looking like this? Okay, Alabama State beat Grambling, first, 10-2. Prairie View beat FAMU 4-3. Why is this all mixed up? Bethune-Cookman beat Bethune-Cookman beat Southern 3-2, and Texas Southern beat Jackson State 5-0. The next day on Wednesday, Jackson State beat Grambling 10-3. Southern beat FAMU 13-3. Alabama State beat Texas Southern 8-1, and then Prairie View beat Bethune-Cookman 5-3. Moving on to Thursday, Texas Southern lost to Jackson State 8-7. Prairie View beat Alabama State 3-2. Southern beat Bethune-Cookman 4-3, and then Jackson State beat Southern 12-3. Moving on to Friday, Alabama State beat Jackson State 8-5 to move on to the first SWAC championship matchup, which they will ultimately defeat Prairie View in that first game. They would defeat Prairie View in that first game, and then Saturday, Prairie View would win a winner-take-all game, 9-1, to pick up the SWAC championship berth and win the SWAC championship and head to the NCAA softball tournament. So Prairie View continues their nice run of championships, coming off of the past week, a couple weekends ago, winning the men's and women's outdoor track and field championships, and now they have a softball championship. So the Panthers are hot right now. We're gonna take a look at the Commissioner's Cup standings, and this was something that I wanted to go over this past week, but I couldn't find it. I scrolled where it was, but we'll take a look at those right now. Jackson State leads right now with 118 points. They have 50.5 points for men's championships, and on the women's side, they have 68 points. If you're not familiar with the Commissioner's Cup, it's basically calculating the finishes of each team in each sport. The team who finishes first is considered to have the best overall athletic program. And right now, Jackson State leads with 118.5 points. Prairie View is second with 116.5, so they've made up some really nice ground. They are almost to the end of this. They're only 2 points behind Jackson State. They have 47.5 points on men's side and 69 points on the women's side. Alabama State is third with 107 points. They have 33 points on the men's side and 74 points on the women's side. Texas Southern is fourth. They have 87.5 points, 43.5 on the men's side, 44 on the women's side. Southern is fifth, tied for fifth with Alcorn. They both have 79 points. Southern 34 points on the men's side, 45 on the women's side. Alcorn 38.5 on the men's side, 40.5 on the women's side. Alabama A&M is seventh place with 73 points. They have 26.5 points on the men's side and 46.5 on the women's side. Grambling is eighth with 71.5 points. They have 24 points on the men's side and 47.5 on the women's side. FAMU is ninth. they have 70.5 points, 31 points on the men's side, 39.5 on the women's side. Pine Bluff is 10th with 69 points. They have 29 points on the men's side, 40 points on the women's side. Bethune-Cookman is 11th with 48.5 points, 22 points on the men's side, 26.5 on the women's side. And Valley is last with 29.5 points, 15.5 on the men's side, and 15.5 points on the men's side, 14 points on the women's side. So that's our Commissioner's Cup standing right now. I think the only thing that's left, if I'm correct, is baseball. So I think, whoever comes out on baseball, whoever finishes ahead of out of Jackson State and Prairie View, whoever finishes in the best spot will most likely be the Commissioner's Cup winner. If either one of those teams could win the championship, then they'll definitely take the SWAC Commissioner's Cup championship. So just really wanted to run through that real quick, show some love to the overall athletic programs in the SWAC. We're going to touch on baseball real quick before we get out of here, because this is a big weekend for SWAC baseball. Like I said, we're coming up on the end of the season. There's one more series, SWAC series after today's game. So we're rapidly approaching the SWAC tournament. Thursday, Alcorn beat Pine Bluff beat Alcorn 11-10. Friday, Valley lost to Alabama State 16-5. Texas Southern lost to Grambling 5-2. Yesterday, Bethune-Cookman lost to Alabama A&M 5-4. Jackson beat FAMU 4-3. Southern beat Prairie View 8-2. Pine Bluff beat Alcorn 15-3. And then they beat Alcorn 9-4 to take the doubleheader and sweep that series. Texas Southern beat Grambling 24-4. Jackson State beat FAMU 9-2. And Alabama State beat Valley 8-1. And then that wraps up Saturday's action. Today, Jackson State and FAMU first pitch 12 o'clock. Alabama A&M and Bethune-Cookman first pitch 12 o'clock. Valley and Alabama State 1 o'clock first pitch. Texas Southern and Grambling also 1 o'clock first pitch. And Southern and Prairie View, they have a doubleheader scheduled for today. Their game on Friday was postponed due to weather. So we'll have two games in Baton Rouge today between the Panthers and the Jags as we head into the end of the season. SWAC tournament it is starting on May 25th in Birmingham. So not a lot of time before the tournament. So we got one more weekend series of SWAC play, and then we'll be in the SWAC tournament. Let's take a look at the standings. It's really tight right now. Alabama State leads the East with a 19-7 record, 28-22 overall. Remember, the top 4 teams in each division go to the tournament. FAMU is 18-8, 25-25 overall. Bethune-Cookman is 15-10, 21-29 overall. Jackson State is 12-15. 25-25 overall. Alabama A&M is 9-16, 14-13 overall. Valley is 4-20, 10-26 overall. Right now, looks like the top 4 teams are going to be Alabama State, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, and Jackson State. There's still a lot of maneuvering room with there only being a 3-game difference between first place and third place. So there's still a lot of room for movement on the east side. On the west side, it's log jam city. There's only 2 games separates first and fourth place. Southern and Prairie View are playing right now. They still have 2 games left on their in their series, so there's a lot of room for maneuvering. Prairie View right now is 18-8, 28-22 overall. Grambling is 17-9, 22-28 overall. Southern is 17-9, 20-28 overall. Texas Southern is 16-10. 25-22 overall. Pine Bluff is 7-18, 12-33 overall. They are out of contention for the tournament, and Alcorn is also out there 2-23, 2-34 overall. So the West, as the 4 teams from the West are decided. Alabama A&M has an outside spot, outside shot in the East, but they still have a mathematical opportunity Valley is out. So right now there's still a lot of maneuverability um, to go in the division. Prairie View and Texas Southern play next week, I believe. Southern plays Alcorn, so Grambling and Pine Bluff will play. So there's still a lot of maneuverability in the East and the West. So we don't have any certain seeds. All of this will probably come down to the last weekend before we decide who is where in the SWAC tournament. So that's gonna do it for today's show. I'd like to thank you guys for listening and tuning in. Make sure you cop that SWAC Smoke Tea if you haven't done so already. Information going back up on the screen. So make sure you hit up DJ, man, and cop your SWAC Smoke Tea. 1 for 25, 2 for 40. And we'll be back with another edition of SWAC Talk on Wednesday. And then Thursday, SWAC Smoke live as usual. So we'll catch you guys this week. So y'all have a good rest of your Sunday and enjoy. Be safe, y'all. Peace.